All right, gents, welcome back. We're going to look at negative externalities. All right, and we'll go through the questions that were given to you in the previous section. So with an aid of a diagram, explain why negative externalities lead to an overproduction of goods and services. So why would goods and services be overproduced? Remember, when we talk about negative externalities, we're looking at things like demerit goods. Okay, but before we get to that, let's just have a look-see here. Negative externalities bear two things. Okay, the first thing is a private cost, the cost of producing the actual product. So if we look at Nike, and Nike was making, let's say, an Air Jordan, what is the cost of producing that Air Jordan? That cost is paid by Nike, and it's a private cost. However, there's also a social cost, and this is the cost suffered by society. So Nike has made this tacky, right? But in making this tacky, have they polluted? Have they damaged the atmosphere in any way? Is society affected or damaged in any way? Would society have to go, let's say, to places like a hospital or see a doctor and pay extra fees to get their health back in order because of the pollution or whatever externalities excreted by Nike making that tacky? So we need to look at all those things, gents, when looking at negative externalities. So again, sticking to the same question, okay? I'll read it again. With the aid of a diagram, explain why negative externalities will lead to an overproduction of goods and services. I've got here, if the social cost of a good were added to the private cost. Remember what the private cost was? That's the cost of producing the actual product, okay? So if the social cost of the good was added to the private cost of the good, the final price would be pushed up and a fewer goods would actually be purchased. So if we look at this Nike tacky, this Air Jordan here, going for 8,751 Rand, okay? This Air Jordan, if we had to include the social cost, would actually be much more higher than this 8,700. So the cost that we're seeing now is actually the private cost of the Air Jordan. If we had to include the social cost, we'd be looking at a higher price. So graphically, what does it look like? Okay, if you have a look here, you'll see that you've got your private benefits, your private cost, okay? That's your original equilibrium at price P and quantity Q, right? What has then happened? Society then says actually less of this product should be produced, shifting the supply curve to the left, okay? Or governments implement some sort of tax to shift the price up of the product. But essentially what's happening is that there's a decrease in quantity and an increase in price, and there's this dead weight loss here. This is the overproduction, okay, that is caused by the negative externality. If it was up to society, we'd be producing at quantity Q1, right, and at price P1. So a higher price and less of the units would actually be produced if it was up to society. Why? Because it's a negative externality that is caused by producing this good, right? This good is a good, right, but it's essentially harmful to society when being produced. Therefore, the price should actually be higher if it were up to society, and the quantity produced would actually be lower. All right, gents, let's leave it at that.